Alright guys, Rich here from the RC Network, and this is going to be update number 4 on my upgrade series for the Losi Mini 8T. Now this is a pretty controversial episode having to do with the motor. This is a pretty much a 1/14th scale sized truggy, so it is bigger than the Losi Mini 8 buggy, but pretty much has the same size motor in it, and you're pretty much rotating larger tires, pretty much overall a bigger vehicle, longer wingspan, so to speak, and you still have that tiny little motor here. Now this is the stock motor that comes inside of the truggy. This is a DYN 4830, and of course from Horizon Hobby, called the Fuse, and this is a 4500 kV motor. Now what makes this thing so somewhat unique, 2mm motor shaft, and finding pinions for it, a little bit tough. They are out there for the 0.5 mod. Well, I can't leave well enough alone. I want to really kind of amp this thing up. This motor gets super hot, especially when you're running on 3S, let alone on 2S. It still gets fairly warm. So it is definitely enough power for it, but I wanted to just be able to up it up a little bit and make it better. So I went over to my friends over at asiatees.com, and I picked up a couple of motors from Leopard Hobbies. You'll see those in the far ground there, and they're not going to work. So the first one I picked up, this is a 2-pole motor. This is basically a direct replacement of that 4500 that you saw there. We're going to compare sizes here as well. But basically here is the Fuse on top, and there is that Leopard Hobby on the bottom. Both are 4500 kV. Both are very similar in size. However, there's different motor shafts on this thing. So I'm going to go ahead and measure up the Fuse one. This one measures in at 2.03. And if you measure up this guy, this one measures in at, let me get the round portion of it, 2.39, 2.41, right in that range. So it's a larger motor shaft. How did that happen? So, another option I picked up was this other motor here. Let's go ahead and take a look at that one. This is a 4-pole motor. This one is, I believe, a 3300 kV. So, and a lot bigger size. Let's grab the stock one here so we can compare once again. So this is the Leopard Hobbies. Here is the stock. I mean, we're looking good, right, guys? Everything's great. Same motor leads coming out. Let's measure the motor shaft. So typically in most motor shafts, you're going to get 1/8 of an inch in standard, and then 5mm for your large ones. Let's go ahead and measure up this guy right here. We're coming up with 4mm. There you go. So now not only do you have to find 0.5, or even try and find a 48 pitch, but then try and find a 4mm shaft. Well, there are some out there. They're meant for helicopters and didn't have the hardness of the pinion that I was looking for. So once again, this one's going to the boneyard here at the RC Network to hopefully see a better day. So let's get those out of the way, and we're going to go ahead and go with Plan C. This is something I picked up from Dollar Hobbies. They're famous for basically, and I hate to say this, but basically a chop shop for Traxxas vehicles. They basically take a perfectly good Traxxas vehicle, chop it up into pieces, and then sell it off for a substantial discount. So I picked this 380 VXL motor. This comes stock, and they say the Summit here. They also had a Revo and a couple other ones, but I think it was $35, so $33 or so, which was pretty cool because the Revo motor was more expensive than the Summit. However, they're the exact same part number. Go figure that one. So, anyways, picked up the Traxxas one. We're not going to have an issue with motor shaft on this one. It's going to have plenty of power, and Unfortunately, it is a Traxxas motor, which I'm not too fond of them, but I think it'll work for our application here. So let's go ahead and measure this thing up. And let's see here. And there you go, 3.18. So right at 1/8 of an inch. So with that, I also picked up some pinion gears. Now I am running the Hot Racing steel spur gear, and with that, you do need to run the right pinions. So I went ahead and I picked up these two Robinson Racing pinions here. These are the Absolute pinions. They are steel and they're hardened. Please do not run a aluminum pinion gear with it. It will not work. It'll chew it up like you can't imagine. So I chose 16 tooth and also 20 tooth. I plan to run the 20 tooth with 2S, 16 tooth with 3S, and they are 48 pitch, which I did pick up the 48 pitch Hot Racing spur gear. So let me get it installed and I'll show you what it looks like in the end. All right, and I'm back now, and I went ahead and got some things test fitted and actually had to do a little bit of modification to get everything to work right with that 16 tooth pinion. Now you'll notice that, of course, the Valenian motor is quite a different diameter than the stock motor here. So in other words, your motor spacing between the pinion, and depending on what size pinion you're running, and where the actual spur gear touch are going to change just a little bit. And I know it's only probably millimeters, but I did have to widen a couple of the holes here to make it all work. And you'll notice here on that little slot right there, it's a little bit wider now. I had to get in there with a file and whatnot to just widen the opening along with the actual motor mount portion of it. And I'll grab that here too. And you'll see here on the motor mount there, you'll see a little bit of silver kind of peeking through. And I did have to widen that one as well to get everything to work. So 16 tooth, 48 pitch is probably going to be the largest pinion with this motor mount. So you can see there I have barely any material left there to cut out anymore. So pretty much 16 tooth is going to be the largest 48 pitch with this motor. And you'll notice here that also one other modification I had to do is if you look way under there underneath the spur gear with that big 60 tooth, that's one of the largest that Hot Racing sells, is I basically had to cut out a little bit of the chassis, and very easy job to do, and it doesn't diminish the strength of the chassis at all because I didn't cut all the way through. I just simply took a cutting wheel on a Dremel, which this happens to be almost the same size as the spur gear, and just kind of went back and forth with it to create that little notch. So pretty easy to do. Steady hand, clamp your chassis down, and it's pretty easy to do. So I'm going to go ahead and get the motor all mounted up so you guys can take a look at the finished product. All right, I got everything mounted in. That was actually almost too simple. I got it mounted in with the supplied hardware from the Mini AT. Everything just went great. I mean, it looks almost like this size motor was meant really for this truggy. I think that's really what kind of plagued the truggy with all of the heat and everything. This is a little bit heavier than the Mini 8. So I think this motor will be great. Now, as far as the modification, I believe, this is just a guesstimate. If you go with a 14 tooth pinion or smaller, you probably won't have to do any modification. And that's why I went with a Valenian motor just because it's so readily available and pretty much anyone can do it. So if you stick with maybe a 14 tooth or smaller in the 48 pitch, you should be able to do it without any modification. As far as the spur gear, you can probably actually up that one, or in the world of RC, if you make a smaller spur gear, you're going to go faster. You can probably go down to about a 58 tooth and have no modification on that chassis. So with me, I'm kind of used to modifying things to get things to work, and I pretty much got this thing nailed. So really quick look at the difference in the two sizes. There is the Losi motor, or the Dynamite motor. You can really see there the size difference. So about 3/8 of an inch longer in the can, actually almost even more than that. And of course, the width of it is just no comparison. So should be a great addition here to the Mini 8T, and I can't wait to run this thing. So, well, that's it for this episode. This is episode number 4 of the upgrade series. The next episode is going to go over which ESC I'm going to be running, so stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out very shortly. There will be a couple more episodes after the ESC choice, just going over wheels and tires and also a body. So stay tuned for all of that stuff. Any comments, questions, please feel free to post those on down below. And as always, thumbs up and subscribe. That's it for now, guys. Over and out.